Hey y'all. Good morning. It is Monday. Hope you guys are having a great morning so far. Today is the 6th of May. I am still on my vacation. It's my last day of vacation. I am literally pulling my hair out because I get so frustrated with payday. It seems as though um payday is never kept around the 5th, okay? And understandably, today should have been like payday. But I don't think I'll be getting paid until tomorrow. And it's just frustrating because I always have bills that are scheduled to come out on my payday. They never seem to be able to be processed on my payday. um Obviously, like, the first was rent, so I just paid my rent, so I'm like in a weird space of broke. Like, my bills are paid, but I need my paycheck. So I'm a little annoyed, just because it's a continuous thing. Like, I notice on the 5th of the month, I never seem to be able to guarantee the date that I'm told I'm going to be paid as a date of being paid. And I don't know, like I said, if I'm running a small business and I'm low on funds or whatever, I may push it out until then, push it out, payments or whatever. But it's just frustrating because basically payroll isn't being done when it should be done so that the employees get paid on time. So every 5th of the month, as of the last 3 months, I've had to ask, where is my paycheck? I've had to tolerate Zelle payments and all this bullshit that I didn't. I just want my fucking paycheck, not a Zelle payment, nothing, right? I want my paycheck. I don't want to have to, tell people, hey, look, I know I said the 5th, give it a couple more days. Like, if I say the 5th, I should be able to, for the most part, count on the 5th, except when payment falls on a Sunday, which was yesterday, which means that if payroll was processed at the right time, I should have got paid this morning. I did not. So having to constantly ask for my paycheck is really annoying. Okay. But not the end of the world, but very much annoying. I just wish this men, um, and not to say it like that, but I just feel like if he had a woman doing payroll, this shit would have been done. Right. So I don't know if it's a strategy to where, hey, I need to make sure there's money in the bank by a certain time. I don't fucking know. I'm just sick of having to constantly ask, hey, I didn't get paid. Where is my paycheck? Like, I'm sick of having that conversation because I really don't like people being in my business at all when it comes to my finances at all. I would much rather just get paid and not have to worry about it and know that I can count on the day that I'm being said I'm getting paid, unless, obviously it's a holiday or something like that. So obviously, I text my boss this morning. I scheduled it for 8 a.m., although I know he's in the office much earlier. But 8 a.m. is just a fair game time. And if need be, I know he'll Zelle me money. It's just the principle. It's like, dude, you say you're going to pay me on the 5th. Come on, bro. You need to be doing your part to ensure your employees are getting paid on their payday. And it's unfortunate because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that does this, but I schedule a lot of payments to come out of my account on my payday. So if I can't even count on getting paid on my payday, the fuck, that shit is annoying. It's annoying. Annoying is the right word for it. But anywho, enough about that, you guys. I'm trying to enjoy my last day of vacation. I had some plans, was going to take my car up to get a recall fix, but I don't know when I'm getting paid, so I don't know what I'm doing. And then obviously, and what I mean by that is making sure I got enough gas, stuff like that, to get to and from tomorrow. And then two, what else was I supposed to do? Oh, I had a whole plan to go take my car in. I really wanted my car to be washed and like cleaned out before I went back to work. Obviously, I had more important matters that I had to take care of, and that's fine. Like, I'm proud of the things that I got done. But it's just the principle. Like, I should be able to do things on my time because I'm told I'm getting paid on a date that I never seem to get paid on. And that shit's frustrating for me. It really is. Anywho, um, I want to get into this conversation because I know that, and I want to be very clear. I have been putting off other people's opinions about the Palestine, protests simply because this isn't when I'm processing something, I don't need propaganda being spewed at me. I don't need to hear repeated and regurgitated information as it relates to the protests, right? I feel like while I still don't understand why the right is in full support of Israel, like I don't get it. Like, and as a Black woman, I have no ties to Israel personally. So mentally, it's like I don't, I don't get it. But I saw somebody wrote down and then somebody told me something about the 9/11, and these kids weren't alive during 9/11. They didn't understand what happened during 9/11. And in my mind, when I hear people talk about that and not speak about 9/11 from the proper context that we should be speaking of it on, it tells me that there are a lot of people who really don't have an idea of what the fuck they're talking about, right? When I hear people, especially on the right, like I say, I don't know what the clinginess to the Israel is. And again, if that's religion, if that's politics, and people are in support of that, then that's your choice. Like I'm not against Israel, and I'm not pro-Israel. I feel like I'm pro-American, right? I think that I'm more American than anything else. I'm more for the people here than anything else. So I really don't, again, have a dog in that fight. Like I don't have anything against Israel or anything not against Israel, but I do know what I know of people with certain backgrounds, okay? And they're not good, okay? And so it was very interesting to me before I get into the whole 9/11 stuff. Fox News came out with this thing where they're saying, hey, look, we think we found the people who are funding this movement, right? Okay. And the one face they show in their clip in the thumbnail is George Soros. Y'all, isn't he Jewish? Like, that's where I'm really confused because this is why I say that I don't believe the students, and I'm going to keep saying students because there are differences in students and agitators, right? The same thing you saw at January 6th. What is it? The protest. Or I don't even know if that was a protest. It could have been, y'all. I'm sorry. It was a while ago. But it got agitated. And the people that were blamed were the protesters, not those going in, acting, and agitating the circumstances. So it's no surprise to me, hence I've said his name and his name has come up as I've discussed this situation many times, that George Soros would be suspected to be behind this. But I also want to reiterate, he is also a Jewish man. This isn't like, so that's where this propaganda, because I really feel like they're funding both sides. Right. And this is where, again, people have to really be able to look at things objectively and not from an emotional standpoint. Right. I really think that this man is funding both sides. I don't know, tell y'all. I really think because in war, something that a tactic that is used often is we'll fund both sides of the war. We fund both sides of the war. That's what they do. So, not all the time, a lot of the times, okay? This idea that there is like hatred against Jews and all this different things, like you have Jews that are a part of this protest. So I don't know. And even when they show the violence, right, on TV, and they show little clips of violence here and there, because it's really here and there, it's not like all day long violence is happening. These are isolated incidents that are within these protests, right? And they're clear as day because when Fox News posts, and they're not the only one, but anytime I'm looking for violence on these campuses, they're very like, you'll have tons of peace in the video, and then maybe one incident of violence, right? And I'm not saying violence is acceptable or not acceptable. That's not my argument here. I just can't help but to see that the violence it's happening, but not like what they're saying it is. And maybe there's just clips I haven't seen. Okay. Maybe there's clips I just haven't seen. Okay. That is very possible. Okay. On Fox News, though, this morning, I know the clip they played, you've seen about 2 incidents or maybe 3 of violence. But what it looked like to me is there were agitators on both fucking sides. So while there are people that may be afraid to sit next to someone who is in support of Palestine, to me, that's like, I don't know, bro. To me, there's got to be more to the story. Like, if you tell me, right, for example, that you're a part of the KKK and you support the all white movement, and we're in college, right, and this is what you support. I don't know if I'm really looking at this, and I want y'all to understand that the Palestine, the protests, the students are nowhere. I don't even want to say that they're KKK. They're not even close to it. So I'm going to the extremity of things, right? I don't know necessarily that I would feel safe or not feel safe, right? I've dealt with, and I know that sounds crazy, but I've actually known people that were a part of the KKK. Like, I never like, I've met people that were a part of the KKK. And the crazy thing is, my mind naturally goes into, I'm curious, which is very bad. It's not always good to be curious, right? Curiosity kills the cat. My mind doesn't go into fear, really. And I know that sounds crazy because we got all this stuff, but I'm curious. I am more wanting to know why you think the way you think versus like me really afraid of you. Like, I probably should be afraid of the KKK. I think the average Black person would probably be like, yeah, but to me, it's like, you're human just like I am. You came up to this conclusion just like I could. So how did you do that? Right? So when my friends, my white friends, their parents were, a part of things or, separated themselves from certain entities or, organizations or whatever. Growing up, I always wanted to know. I wanted to know what made a person go to that level of extremity, right? Not to taunt them, but because I was very curious. I was just wanting to know. So while my friend was like, no, you should probably not meet my dad, I'm like, why not? Like, so I have maybe a false sense of safety. I don't want to say it's false. I don't know. I've never been, by the grace of God, I feel like I've always been protected, right? So I don't fear things the way I think that other people sometimes fear things, or I don't look at things the same way. So if I was a Jewish student, right, and I'm a student, and understandably, not all people are like this, okay? And I again, some of this has to do with backbone too, because I'm not gonna lie, some of these students that were like, oh, I'm so afraid, like, they didn't have much of a backbone, bro. Like, so it's like, well, are you really afraid? Or are you afraid because you're not like about that life? Like, like some people have such mild characteristics and such a mild personality, right? And I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but the depictions that they put on the news do not work for me. It's one of those things where it's like, well, are you soft? And that's maybe why you're scared. Like, as a man, I guess my idea of a man is not all men, right? So when I see young males and they're like, oh yeah, I'm so scared, but they're like, of course, like if you look at their type, their phenotype, and there's no disrespect. This is not against, I'm talking about just certain kinds of people. They're like this woman or man. If you're meek, and you're quiet and you're reserved and like, I don't know how much of that is just you. Is it you or is it the protest? You know what I mean? Like, and not to say that these students should not be fearful. I don't fucking know if that's what they should be or not. What I'm saying is, though, the characters that they're putting on the news are not helping this cause for me mentally. Like, It doesn't help me when you live in a generation of males who are already somewhat like, I don't know what to say. All I know is the man, I guarantee you that if I met that individual, he'd be exactly what I described, like exactly what I'm thinking in my head. So him to be afraid of the protesters, well, it's kind of a given the phenotype that we're dealing with, right? I'm just saying, because again, if we're in college and we're college level students, this is the thing. Shouldn't you be able to debate your fellow student as to why? Shouldn't you be able to engage them in conversation as to why they support what they support? I don't believe that all those students are causing those problems. I really think that somebody, hence possibly, George Soros, okay, is taking advantage of those protests. I think those kids are really doing what they feel they should be doing. And I know a lot of white people have a hard time understanding that because again, you already have a hard time with diversity on a real level. Like you already do. Okay? So then to turn around and say, well, these kids never grew up. And I told you guys that was the thought process. They never grew up in 9/11. They didn't have to see 9/11. Well, excuse me, you guys. I was a kid. I grew up in New Jersey, right? I remember that day vividly. Okay. I remember being pulled out of class when that first plane hit in New Jersey. Nobody knew what was happening at that moment. Okay. My principal got on the loudspeaker. They were crying. And I remember kind of laughing because I really didn't know what was going on. I was a bit of a class clown, but I was also like uncomfortable. Hearing the teacher at that time or the principal crying over the loudspeaker, like it was uncomfortable. And then you're wondering, like, what the fuck is she crying about? And we really didn't know what was going on. We just knew we were all ushered out of our classrooms, put on buses, and sent back home that day. It wasn't until I got home that I realized what had happened in New Jersey and then learned what happened in New York, right? And I was watching this live time from the live time. We were sent home based upon the plane that landed in New Jersey. It had nothing to do with 9/11 at that moment. But please believe when I got home, we saw that this was much more than just a plane landing in New Jersey. Okay? That's when I learned of all the things. I watched it on the news. I turned the TV on. I was home by myself. My mom wasn't home. I don't recall my sister. Maybe my sister was home. I mean, she should have been. I don't know. But I remember that day like it was yesterday. Like I remember it. I remember watching the president when the president George Bush was sitting with them group of children. He was being filmed when that happened. That was on the news. It was live time. Okay. So I remember all of this. I am a kid who did actually live for that moment. Well, I didn't live for that moment. I lived in that moment. Okay. So when I say this, I'm going to say that I just want to try to give y'all another, take on things or another way to look at it, right? 9/11 happens. Okay. You have this whole thing about Iraq and Iran, right? Osama bin Laden. Okay, so do y'all know that allegedly, and I'm gonna say allegedly because we don't know, because nowadays we don't know what's true and what's not true. Supposedly, Osama bin Laden, from what I heard a long time ago, and I don't know if any of y'all have heard this too, but he was supposed to be dead many, 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 many years ago, well before Barack Obama. Then that's one rumor I heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's one rumor I heard. It was like, I think he died. They said that he died in like 1994, 1995, something like that. Okay. Then obviously things have changed. So you can't find much information anymore. Okay. That's what I heard. Okay. I'm not saying it's true because I don't know. Then you have this conversation of Barack Obama. Fuck, I hate his name sometimes because I'll be confusing him with the other people. Osama bin Laden, and I hope I didn't say Barack Obama. I meant Osama bin Laden. Okay. Then there was talk about, and I'm still certain that you can find this if you look hard enough, where people are saying, hey, look, this man was a like he was trained by the United States. He was, him and his families, the Bushes and the Osama bin Ladens were like close. So for me, and from what I understand, he actually, like, when I say trained by the US military, CIA. Osama bin Laden is not the threat I think that people think that he is. Like, he is, but there was a lot more to 9/11 than what we were told. So this idea that all Muslims are bad, but your government is just as much at fault for what happened in 9/11 as the guy who's in the Middle East. I know he's dead now. I know he's gone, right? Or that's what they say, right? I don't fucking know anymore. I don't know what's true and what's not true. Apparently Obama took care of that, right? But I don't know, I don't know. Because, like I said, I heard that man was gone many, many years ago. Nobody knows the truth about 9/11. Nobody knows just how far and to what extent Americans really play in that situation. For all we know, there were things done in order to usher a new way of living and being and doing things. There were people who benefited from what happened in 9/11 on 9/11 on all sides, except the American people who lost their loved ones that day. That's it. So I don't, I think there's more to these protests than what people understand. I think you have people that are genuinely protesting because they feel that what they're doing is right. And again, when it comes to genocide, I'm never just going to be like, yes, I'm in full support of genocide. We're talking about how the students are fearful here in America. And if they're fearful, they're entitled to that, right? If they feel like, they're being threatened or harmed or whatever, like, okay, like if you feel scared, then that's cool. Like, I mean, it's not cool. But that's your prerogative. That's like, okay, that, I'm never going to take that away. Again, the male that they put up there, I could see why he was kind of afraid. Like, that's what I'm saying is not like we're raising really tough kids these days either, though. So I could see why he was afraid. If I looked like him and I was like him, I might be afraid too. No shade. It's just what it is. If I was a meek and mild person with no backbone, I probably would be terrified. Because you're dealing with two different types of people. Now, this thing that, oh, they're just mean to the Jewish students and they're just picking on the Jewish students. You have Jewish people a part of the movement, right? And you also have Jewish people apparently funding the movement. So, I don't know. I don't know how realistic, like, I know that people are upset, but when you really are hearing what's coming out, it's like some of it really doesn't make sense. And I know that people are saying, well, if they're leftist children, I don't think I don't know. I don't know that Biden's trying to start a war with Israel. I don't know that that's what he's doing. I think that there are more people, again, pulling the strings. This is bigger than some damn college students, especially when you have folks bringing agitators in to cause more mayhem than what should have been. I believe that that's what's being done. If there's really violence at the level that it is, I don't believe it's all college students. I'm sorry. I feel like college students, they have way too much more to lose. And I know that people are saying, oh, well, they're spoiled children. They're spoiled. First of all, this ain't the first time we've seen any protests on a college campus at this capacity. That's number one. This ain't the first time America has seen this. But my thing is this, now that you got students going against such a big player in all of this, It's almost like I'm trying to figure out what's the end game. What's the end game? For George Soros to say, you know what? I mean, if that's what they're allegedly, right? Because I don't know. I don't know the man. I don't know what he woke up to do today. But if he is funding the agitators, I don't believe they're funding the movement itself. I think folks are funding the agitators. I think that's more of an accurate depiction. I don't see this again, and until I see flyers somewhere that are being released, I don't see the protests as being people who are bought and paid off for. I see it as college students who, for some odd reason, learned about what was going on in Israel and Gaza. Okay, because what they're claiming is kind of accurate. It's not like it's false stuff that they're saying is happening. So unless all the media is just geared towards showing you genocide, showing you these things, and then telling you that's not the case. Again, it's not, in my opinion, this doesn't follow the actual script. It doesn't. I think that because you have a lot more people that are not just white and black, right? You have a lot of immigrants. And when I say immigrants, it's the people with the hijabs. Is that the right word? The people with the women, you know how they have their hair covered, the Muslim women and stuff. It's a lot of them here. I didn't realize how many of them people, I don't want to say it like that, how many of them were here. Okay. So that tells you America is not the same America when 9/11 happened. It's not the same place. You've got and I said this earlier in one of my lives where I feel like there are a lot of immigrants, and whether they came here legally or illegally, who have shaped the dynamics of what we see. Right? So it doesn't make them evil people. It just means that you have a lot more of them in school. So for the teachers to be teaching about what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and I don't know what they're teaching these kids. What I do know is the argument of things that are happening. A lot of the things that they're saying are happening in Gaza actually happened. And you've got people on the other side saying, good for them. Good, it's happening. We're happy. We're glad. Again, America, in the sense that Americans are supporting Israel against Gaza, it tells me that either we got some Israel, we're close to some Israel people, right? We're loyal to them. Or I've said this time and time again, that there is a level of fear as it pertains to people of another religion, people of another race, right? And I say that solely for America because America has been indoctrinated to be that way. So when we have people saying, oh, well, them kids didn't understand what happened in 9/11, this is separate. That bad guy is gone, right? And we don't even know if he was really a bad guy or an ally, to keep it real with you. We don't really know when he died. We know when they say he died, but there were rumors that he had died long before Obama catching somebody. This is why there's so many thoughts around what Obama's team, the Navy SEALs actually did. Because nobody knows what was true or what's not. What we do know and what we can suspect, I don't want to say no, but what we can suspect is that the American government played a big part in what happened in 9/11. We can suspect that. But the whole conspiracy behind the SEAL Team 6, is that what they were? Navy, I believe half of them are gone. They're not even here anymore. They're gone. One by one. That was the conspiracy, that they were taken out one by one after the fact. That's what I'm saying. Y'all don't even know what's really going down, but y'all fix y'all's mouths to sit there and say, oh, well, 9/11, these kids didn't even live in 9/11 to even know. Why is 9/11 the end all be all factor when you're sitting here talking about a genocide of people and we're sitting here saying, well, that's okay. It wasn't them. They're not the ones who did it. Supposedly it was Iraq, Iran, but white, like, and when I say white people, listen, white people think with a completely different thought process than blacks on a lot of different things. Okay. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's spot on. Sometimes I don't understand. I don't think I'll ever be understand because I'm not white. Right. But how do you equate a group of people as being one when they're all separate? Just because Osama bin Laden and from Iraq, that's what they say, although he was 9 times out of 10 here in America, like he had family here in America who lived here in America. Like that's what people are not, we just forget about all the quote unquote conspiracies to support a narrative that we think is accurate. Now, 9/11 is not a good depiction of who you think certain types of people are because unfortunately it was orchestrated by people that look like you and I, and maybe more like you, not me. So, that's not a good argument. It's not a good argument, and it's not a good look when you have whites saying, listen, the goal for us, I would think as American people, is to be less divided. That would be the goal. Right now, when we're getting our butts handed to us, the goal would be to not show division, to not be divided as much as possible. But there is a group of people that is continuously trying to divide everybody. And when you have white people that are so ignorant that they'll say, well, do you remember what happened? So when you go on a plane and you have to sit next to a Muslim person, is that what the fuck you're thinking when you're sitting next to the guy? Oh, he might, you know what I mean? Like, it is racism. It's racism, hella racism. That's your excuse for why you support Israel today? In this beef that nobody really knows, like nobody knows what it is. If you're in America, you ain't been to Israel, you have not visited Gaza, you are not physically there in these times, you do not have family or anybody that can communicate to you about what's happening, you really don't know what's going on. You only know what's going on based upon the clips that you're shown, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Fox News, whether it be CNN, right? You don't really know. So to blame these children's and I say children because they're not freaking children, the college students' protests on the lack of not living through 9/11, that's some bullshit. That is complete bullshit. It's bullshit. Because what you're saying is that one incident should have trained them to think a certain way against all people who look like Osama bin Laden. That's not okay. That argument is not okay. That is racism. It may not be, hey, F those people, but it sure is racism. And then, like I say, you guys want to touch on certain conspiracies, but you don't want to really look at the bigger picture. Like I say, that was an inside job, apparently. Right? It was done by the very people that look like you and me. So how are we then turning around and saying we don't like these people? We may not agree with their ways, and that's true. I would say that the Middle East and America have two very different ways of living, at least from what we're shown. But how much of that is artificial? How much of that is created so that we in our minds consistently think that we have a boogeyman, who looks like these people? So I don't rock with that. I don't find that to be a good excuse, right? I think that it's fair to say that anybody should be against genocide. That's simple. Like, that's not a complicated thought process right there. If you see that, hey, this government is, again, what happened with quote unquote Osama bin Laden, I'll say that again, that's how that should have been done. We didn't go in like literally bombing and decimating a whole country. We went in, we sent our Navy SEALs in, and we went and did our job. And anytime we tried to do what they're doing, we lost. In Afghanistan, we lost. which is strange to say, but we lost. So I don't think these people, I think there's more to this than what people understand. And I think that both sides are playing into it. I think both the right and the left are playing into it. I think both the right and the left are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing as it pertains to this situation. If you're telling me that you've got Trump in the background that's in full support of Israel, 100% in support of Israel, then you've got an Israel person, or an Israel person, a Jew who is suspected of funding this movement. You got Jews that also support the movement heavy. So I also want to be clear, there's a lot of Jew people that do support this movement. And then you got the ones that are saying, hey, look, we're afraid. It's so violent. It's this, it's that. I feel like some of this is done to cause confusion. It's a lot of confusion going on. And I think it's easy to blame the left, but if Trump is in support of Israel, and we're saying that a Jew, not just him, but they're suspecting that this Jewish man is the one funding this, y'all, are we not able to connect the dots? Are we not able to say something's off, something's not right? Because I would think, right, if it's a Palestinian movement, wouldn't it be Palestine that's funding this movement? But it's not, it's the Jews. It was expected, but it's the Jews. Or at least suspected. That's what Fox News had released, that they suspect. They got George Soros facing the thing. Y'all are not like, but we're still blaming the college students and not the people that seem to be in bed with each other. I always say, I'm going to say this now. I believe that the left and the right are two planes, two wings of one bird, right? Two wings of one plane. I don't believe Trump is the answer. That is just my personal opinion. From everything that I'm seeing right now, I do not think he is the answer. I think he is bought and paid for. And I understand that y'all are like, nah, he's not. He's not. I think that in acting, because he is an actor, just like, well, Biden isn't really an actor, but he is an actor. Okay. And I feel as though you have certain groups of people at the top, okay, supporting this entire thing on both sides, on both sides, on both sides. I think that I don't know if it's to cause a level of fear in terms of the uprising against Israel, because what I do see happening is, I mean, first of all, Kanye West already told us what was about to happen. But then I know some of y'all think Kanye is crazy, but he did say this shit was about to happen, and not at the specific event. But if you guys listen to that interview, he said what would happen, what was going on, what we're going to see more of, and we are seeing more of it. So I don't know if it's just that this group of people has a level of power that they're able to control. Well, they're able to control certain narratives that are being spun. They are able to control who shows up to these movements. They are able to control who gets arrested, how quickly they get arrested, how quickly they shut these things down. I also want to be very clear. You don't have that many police around the world. Around the nation. And all these police officers are doing the same thing at each college, right? At the same damn time. I'm sorry. That is orchestrated. So who is funding them? Who is funding the police? I bet you it's the same people that are funding this quote unquote protest. But we say funding protests because, again, that includes everybody instead of saying funding the agitators. I think this movement started off peaceful. I think the intent of it was to be peaceful. I think the intent was to raise awareness to the circumstances and not allow the situation to be one-sided and spun one-sided here in America. When you look at the rhetoric that is going out, the level of propaganda that is going out right now, it is all in support of Israel. It always has been. But the more people are saying no, this is the other side of the story. Notice how they're doubling down. When you hear these people talking about the Jewish people are afraid, right? The Jewish students are afraid. They're not talking about the Palestinian students. They don't mention how maybe the because I'm telling you now, there's that guy's phenotype in Palestine too. They're everywhere. Here in America, you know some people like that really will they're not confrontational, right? They don't do well with confrontation and chaos. Like they're really not built for that kind of life. So any level of confrontation, oh, I'm uncomfortable, right? That's the word they use. I feel unsafe, right? I've been there. I've seen it where people, just because of who they are, they're not built. If I was to come up to them and be like, yo, you did X, Y, and Z, and I don't like this, or whatever, right? And just made it real confrontational. I've had it when I was younger, when I was real younger, right? When I was learning to control myself. When I'm talking about like 14, 15, where white girls would be like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. But it was like, the white girl would do something real off, right? And do something wrong. And then when I would call her out, and I'm upset, obviously, because she did something that she had no business doing to me. So now I'm speaking up and I'm going to let the white girl know about herself. And then all of a sudden, the white girl screams, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I feel unsafe. And when I look back at those times, maybe there was a reason why she felt uncomfortable and unsafe. If I was angry, she probably should have felt unsafe and uncomfortable. Did I put my hands on her? No. Did I do something to entice violence? No, but because of her phenotype, she was uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? So I wonder, again, I'm not trying to say that these students are not being attacked. I'm not trying to say that these students don't have a right to feel unsafe, because again, if I'm going to school and that's all I'm expecting to do, and I'm not, like, again, I feel like they're students, bro. And part of that is intellect and dialogue, and intellect and dialogue. So again, as a Jew, as a student, fuck my race or my religion. As a student, let's debate this. Let's do a great debate. Like, where are the debates? Because again, the students that are saying free Gaza, hey, they've got a point. Whether we like that point, whether we support it or not, they've got a point. So instead of the Jew, and really, I would think a debate, a conversation between students is probably the best thing you could have at this time. Not an apologetic. No, I want to hear your points. Why are you in support of Israel? Why are you not in support of Israel? Why can't they come and have that level of debate? Why are we going to the fucking news, telling the news we're uncomfortable and we feel unsafe? Why aren't we engaging in dialogue? Why not? And while I understand that everyone is not capable of engaging in dialogue, you can't tell me that these students that are going to these prestigious schools don't know how to communicate. So where is your faculty? Where are your professors? Where are the adults saying, look, let's talk about this. Let's have a dialogue about this. Let's have a debate about this. Put it on national news. I would much rather see that than to see a protest for a cause that I do support. And it wouldn't matter if you're Asian, black, blue, purple, pink, right? Christian, non-Christian, it wouldn't matter. I don't believe that whatever. I don't believe in genocide. So if Israel is saying, hey, look, because again, all protests at a college level, that's what the college kids are supposed to be doing. This is where I have such a hard time with people that are so against these students. That's crazy to me. Vietnam War, did they not do the same exact fucking thing? Did they not? If they didn't, please show me it. Please tell me that they didn't. But we've got clips of students back then doing the same thing on their college campuses. College campuses have a history of students protesting. That's number one. And while I understand the argument of peaceful protest, how do we even know what some of these folks are, what's being said on the news is even true or false? How do we know? You send a kid to me, not a kid that's actually harmed by this violence, right? It's different if you get a kid that's in the hospital right now because he endured a level of violence. You got a puny little punk telling me he was afraid of, he feels unsafe. He's a man. The fuck? And you expect me to not question that? Like, come on. Now, if it was Alex Jones, like Alex Jones is a big man. I don't see that man being like, I was afraid for my life. But this little puny guy, he's puny. He's tiny. Of course, I could easily see that. He probably stays to himself, is probably really quiet, right? Again, a person who's not really there for confrontation. But most of the time when I see these clips of violence, I see both sides. There's somebody kicking at one person, the other person's kicking at the other person. One person may be yelling at the other person's face. The other person's yelling, trying to go towards the person that's yelling that they so afraid of. This is what I'm saying. It's not like the two sides aren't tangling. It ain't like people are just coming at Jewish students and like the Jewish students are just, maybe they are. But a lot of the scenes that I see people fighting back, fighting each other, which tells me that there was probably a level of alcohol involved, right? Which tells me that people are just, to some extent, being careless. And I said this before. I do believe that there are possibility that people are taking advantage of the situation. Of course, they're young. But then when they're saying that students are not even at these, so the ones that are getting arrested aren't even students, that's a bigger issue. So then it takes the validity away from what the students are protesting, because now we've got people from other communities coming in, just like Black Lives Matter, and doing everything that they should not be doing in the name of freeing Gaza. Hence, George Soros. This ain't like, it's the same bullshit. Same thing with 9/11, or not 9/11, January 6th. Although I don't know who did January 6th. I don't know that George Soros was behind that. I wonder how much. I do believe the left was probably behind it, but I don't know that there's a lot of people pulling the strings at the top. Too many. It ain't just one guy. I think that was done by somebody else. I think that was done intentionally. Well, obviously. But I don't think it was George Soros. I could be wrong, but I don't think it was. Maybe it was not, but I don't think it was. I think you have several of the 1%ers who have a stake in America and who are pulling the strings at the top. I believe that Trump answers to somebody. I really believe Trump answers to somebody now. I know a lot of people were saying, well, if he goes to jail and he's going through all these things and we're silencing, he's being silenced and he's not a bought and paid for politician. I think that's kind of what they want us to believe. Prophecy, the 45th president, y'all know, was actually deemed as the prophecy states that the 45th president is, what is the term? I'm looking for it. The guy, what they call Barack Obama, but Barack Obama was the 44th president, I think. But the end of times, the devil, I don't want to say the devil, but I think that's what it represents. It's like They use this term to describe Barack Obama, but it's a 45th president. And it's 45. That number is important for a reason. Trump is the 45th president. And so what they say is that I want you guys to understand how the prophecy is spun is that the person that basically he looks like a savior, but he's not a savior, right? So it's like the devil, the way I can repeat it for right now, because there's actual like terminology that they use still to this day to describe Obama. And y'all know what I mean when I'm talking about end of days. But basically, Satan comes back as a savior. So everybody thinks that this thing is for him, like the false coming of Jesus Christ or whatever, right? It's not Jesus Christ, it's the time. So it's like they cause a bunch of chaos, which they've already done. And I think to some extent we think it has to get worse than what it is now. This is just why I'm hesitant on who I'm voting for, okay? The prophecy states that the goal is to create order out of chaos, right? Obviously. What happens is they're going to cause all this chaos to the point where the people are begging for something new. They're begging for something better. They're begging for their savior to come, right? But the savior comes, it's like a guy, it's like a mask. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna pretend to be your savior until I'm not your savior. And that's how they catch a lot of people. That's the story. And apparently the 45th president, I can't think of the name for Barack Obama right now, but there's a name where everybody who doesn't really like Barack calls him like, he's supposed to be Satan, but like, y'all know, not Satan, not like the actual devil, but there's a term for it and I can't freaking think of it, but he is supposed to be that. Like they're saying that Barack Obama is not is the Antichrist. That's what I'm trying to say, the Antichrist. Prophecy said 45th president, not 44th president. And I know that people are like, well, Trump is, he's the GOAT and everything else. Prophecy says 45th president. I swear to God, it's 45th president. So I don't, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. I don't know who's for who. What I do know is that large amounts of killings of innocent people, that's not okay. Okay, I don't care who you are, where you're from. And some of this you guys have to understand is when you're dealing with entities, and I say entities because I'm thinking of countries and stuff like that, who support rituals at the level of sacrificial rituals, and they support that shit. Listen, you do have to pay attention to what's happening. You have to ask yourself, is this right? Is this really right? Is this an excuse to do what they're doing? Or is this really an attempt to get Hamas? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I know that a certain group of people have a history of doing certain things. And while it's never fair to judge people based upon their history and group them all together, we can say that we have enough evidence to show that there's a group of people that are known for doing certain things. It just is what it is. And you've got presidents, all of them, who are in full support of this. Biden is too. He may not come out and openly speak on it, but I don't think that's his place to have to speak on it. I know that Trump said he would, but I think if you're dealing with a more militant president, then yeah, maybe you would. Trump is more militant than Biden. Biden ain't that militant, apparently. He's more passive. He's more like, he ain't militant much at all. So from Trump, it's expected for him to say, you know what, I expect somebody to speak out and address these college students. But Biden is Biden, bro. He ain't as militant as people think. That man is not militant at all. Trump is. So I don't know, y'all. I feel like there's more to this than what people understand. I think that the intent is more than what people understand. I'm curious, you know who I would really want to hear from right now is David Icke. And the reason why I like David Icke's opinion on stuff like this is because David Icke is from a different country. That's number one. So he's not being fed, they're not being fed the same exact propaganda we're being fed here. So it gives a little bit more of context. Obviously, he's probably more given where he's from. He's probably interacted with more people of different types than what we understand. He is more knowledgeable about things that happen around the world, I think more so than Alex Jones. Alex Jones speaks from an American standpoint, whereas I feel like David Icke, because of that international presence, I mean, Alex has an international presence, but he's an American. David Icke is more, he's got kind of what they're saying over there, and I just feel like when you get the information not from an American news source, that's sometimes the best way to go to understand what's really happening in other countries, because again, it's shaped, the narrative is shaped to fit the mind frame that they gave us to believe and indoctrinated us with the 9/11 attack. So off the rip, everything is going to seem a bit biased because we already have a natural bias embedded in us. If 9/11 never happened, would we be looking at this situation the same way? I don't know. So that's my take on it. I'm trying to get my words out, y'all, because it's hard to describe. Like, I want to be clear, even though my content may seem in support of Palestine, I'm very objective to the entire situation. I don't have any personal stake in anything. I know I don't support genocide. I know that much. So it wouldn't matter if it was happening from Gaza to Israel, Israel to Gaza. I would not be in support of that. But as far as the circumstances are being laid out here in America, I don't know that we're getting all the truth. I don't know that the right or the left has all the facts. I think that there is a certain narrative spun because of who America has to be loyal to and is an allegiance to. So naturally, the propaganda is going to be more in favor of Jewish people than it would be of Gaza. I do believe that there's an imbalance of the conversation. I think that because of the protests, people are now trying to shed light on what's actually happening in Gaza versus what the news is telling us. I think that when we're making opinions, we should have an idea of what's going on both sides. I think that we have to be able to ask ourselves why in one situation were we able to do one thing, but then we turn around again, it's the same thing. We went after Osama bin Laden. We sent a specialized team in to go do what they did. According to Obama, if they did what they did, then that's what they did. Okay. Why didn't Israel do the same thing? Why hasn't Israel done the same thing? Are we saying everyone in Gaza is sacrificial for the cause? Like, it's worth, because that's what you hear people saying is, hey, if it means, protecting us, then it's worth it. I don't know, and again, I don't know enough about, I understand it's a religious war. That's what people say. Okay. But from what I understood, this was more about something else. It was religious, but didn't it have something to do with, I don't want to say property, but it has something to do with land and people wanting to take certain land for themselves. And, am I not right? I mean, I know that's not the narrative that's being spun, but that's what I've heard, is that this was more about taking land. Like, I guess they were in the middle of a peace treaty and then something happened and the peace treaty failed or something like that. And now, and the goal was it to build something or to build, or I don't know. All I know is that's what I heard, is that there, and I I can't repeat it. I'm like, that's what I heard, but I ain't saying nothing. But it is what I heard, that there was a peace treaty between the two parties and somebody reneged on that peace treaty, or they had up until a certain amount of time to agree to the terms or something, and somebody didn't agree, somebody reneged. I just, it seems to me this is a land grab, is it not? I don't know. It's just some thoughts, if you're going to decimate a whole group of people, why would you do that? What would be the reason for that? Okay. I mean, hatred, possibly. Land, that seems more like it to me. Like I said, I think there's more in this than we understand, and the religious stuff is like it's like a way to keep people like not asking questions. So I don't know, y'all. I could be totally wrong, but these are the things that I be hearing through the grapevine, and I'm just sharing them with y'all because it's stuff that really does make you think. If you really start looking at things from an objective side, not a I'm pro Trump and I'm loyal to Trump and Trump can do no wrong. To put that kind of faith in a man but not God, that's the problem. I don't believe Trump is the answer. I've said this time and time again. I don't believe he's the answer. I think that the entire thing, now that I'm starting to see things play out, I almost feel like everything that we've seen between Trump and Biden has been written, staged, and put in front of us like a movie screen. The intent to divide. When they saw that there was an ability to divide the right and the left further, I feel like Trump and Biden were a good play. Because again, if there wasn't, let's say Trump does not win this election, and I don't even know if there will be an election, but if Trump doesn't win the election, how do you think people are going to react? You saw what happened last year or 4 years ago. How do you think people are going to react? I don't think that's not intentional. I believe that everything we're seeing right now is intentional. There's an intent behind everything. If George Soros is funding this quote unquote movement, which I don't think he's funding the movement as much as he's funding the agitators, because it's more in his best interest to not have this goddamn movement, right? He's a Jew. I'm just saying, it would, why would I want the narrative spun that I'm a bad guy, even though I'm not? Or even though I am? Why? Like, that's how they come across anyway, off the rip. You can't even say nothing about them because now all of a sudden you everything but what you are. So it would make, in my opinion, it would make sense that he would fund the agitators to go in like COINTELPRO and disrupt that peaceful protest. Now what it's done is it's caused confusion on the left just as much as it's done on the right. And the thing about Biden is his base are students. Y'all got to understand that. So he can't just come out like Trump. I think they should be all locked up. That's not Trump's base. Biden's base are the college students. The Democrats, their base are college students. That's how they won here in Denver, Colorado. College students. Boulder, Larimer County, college students. This is how Biden won. So he can't necessarily come out and say, well, hey now, children. He can't. He can, but he can't do it at the level that Trump can, because that's not Trump's base. Trump's base is more like 35, 45-year-old white men. That's his base. Maybe even younger, maybe 18. But his base is white men. They're a different breed. They're not fucking college students, bro. So understand that it's not that, again, I know the right wants to say, oh, the left is supporting this. I don't think the left is supporting it. I think the left supports Israel. I think that's what the money says. The billions of dollars he's sending over there, that's what that package says, is that the America, left or right, apparently it doesn't matter at this point, they support Israel. That's what Biden's pocket said. That's what the money said. But the students, his base, are saying, fuck that. We don't support that. That's what y'all got to understand. It's not Biden saying, hey, look, kids, go out and do X, Y, and Z. I don't think any president, this is the truth about what I believe. I don't believe any president really can do that. I don't think they can really stand against Israel the way that, we be thinking that they can. I don't think the presidents have that power. I think that they think they have the power, maybe, but they learn really quickly they don't got that kind of power. I think America is like Israel's son. And that's the daddy. So I don't see this being a left thing. And I hate that the right is spinning this narrative. It is a narrative that they're spinning. It is propaganda that they're spinning. And because the reason why they're allowing it to be spun the way that they're spinning it is because they know that it speaks to their base of people. Unfortunately, me being a black woman, I ain't on either side of this. Right? I'm not, and me being a black woman who voted for Trump, I damn sure ain't nobody's base. I am one of them one-offs that nobody knows how you gonna vote, when you gonna vote, who you gonna vote for. I am the base that I am part of the group that where it makes sense to vote, I vote. Where it don't make sense, I'm not voting. Just is what it is. So this isn't a left issue. And anytime the right spins it like that, they're fucking up their own credibility for people who could see beyond that shit. You can't tell me this is a left issue when the left is the one financially supporting these people with thousands and thousands and billions of dollars. The fuck? Trump's base, Biden's base, college students are no longer following the program. That's what's happening. And so we've got to get these students in line as quickly as possible. We must get these students in line as quickly as we can. How dare they? Hence why you saw the protests being shut down at the same time all across the nation. You think that wasn't coordinated? It was coordinated by somebody. It had to be. You don't just go playing off like one by one by one by one. It's like each camp was being hit. You hear something about what happens in California, you easily hear about what happens in New York. It's the same thing. Back to back. Two different sides of the country. And you mean to tell me that this isn't orchestrated? It is. This ain't accidental that the police just happen to be at these protests all at the same time. Shutting down the protests all at the same time. Everybody's calling for these protests to be shut down. And the reason why Biden can't, he can't. He can, but he's not going to come down militant like how Trump would. Because again, he's got to pander to his base. If he loses his college students, Biden has nobody. Biden don't got not one person in support of him. He will have to drop out. So there's more at play than what people understand. There's more. It's bigger than these college students. It's so much bigger than that. And maybe it started with the college students, but I don't think anybody was expecting the college students to speak up the way that they're speaking out. Like that wasn't expected. That part was not a part of the program. Nobody expected that. So you guys have to understand, you're only hearing, every time I go to Fox News, it is very much one-sided. I believe CNN is spewing out the same. Right now, CNN, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like CNN and Fox are saying exactly the same thing as it pertains to the protests. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But everybody wants these college students shut down, silenced. Why? That's a big issue to me. Why? And I understand people, freedom of speech, but you got to be peaceful and da. Huh? Houseway. So I wanted to share that because I think people don't know what really happened in 9/11. Obviously, if you're really sitting here telling people, oh, well, and that's your argument for why these kids should be shut down, is that the kids don't know, they didn't live through 9/11. Half of y'all weren't even there. This is what's so bothersome for me. Half of y'all never experienced the 9/11, was nowhere near the attack when it happened. You didn't have anybody passing away in that side of, you did not know because you were not there. You only heard what you heard on the television. You were probably sent home because they had no idea what was going to happen, right? Outside of that, you don't know what happened. I would think that the people that are there, that are closest to the scene, that's what people don't understand. You weren't there, buddy. So how do you know what actually transpired on 9/11? None of us know. What we do know is something doesn't seem right. Something smells fishy. Something appears to be an inside situation. And when it's inside situation, then you better be preaching that we be just as fearful as the Muslim as much as we are the American. Because last time I checked, they were in bed together. So I am very confused. Osama bin Laden was CIA. Yes, he was. So when we sit here and we have these conversations about the Middle East, y'all are coming from is a very, what's the word? It's a very, it's like you were indoctrinated to think the way that you think about Muslim people from the Middle East. Now, do we all, America's lifestyle and their lifestyle, according to what we see on TV, is completely different. So in that case, I could see how we're a little fearful, right, of supporting that. I get it. But genocide is genocide. And like I said, if it was happening to people in Africa, it's no different than the apartheid. If these things were happening in certain parts of the country or world, listen, I'm in support. As long as, people are doing right. And when people are doing wrong, they're doing wrong. It's that simple. When people are making irrational decisions or making sacrificial, because I really think it's bigger than what people understand. I understand that you have the people thinking, oh, this is a religious war, but I think there's a bigger intent. There's an intent behind what's being done. I've heard the conversation of a possible smart city being built there. You understand? This is about money. People don't go to war for this is money. Now, religious, okay, cool, but they've been living together for how many centuries? Fine. Maybe not fine, maybe a little beef here and there, but it ain't gotten like this. Not that I recall, not in my lifetime, maybe in my dad's lifetime, but not in mine. Well, I guess in my lifetime because it's happening now. So I just, again, I don't have all the facts. I don't know everything that's happening. But I do know what I do support, and it doesn't take me to know what's going on to know what I support and what I don't support. That's off the rip, right? If they're saying, hey, look, we're talking about genocide on both sides, it's not okay on both sides, I agree. It's that simple. You're going after an organization that you don't agree with and did something to you and harmed you, then you send a specialized team in to go find them people and do what you need to do, an eye for an eye. I'm in full support of that. I am not in full support of the complete decimation of a country because of the acts of one organization. No, sir. And if you're telling me that the intelligence of Israel, the intelligence of America, with all the money that we're sending over there, right? If you're telling me that their intelligence is very high. Last time I checked, they got a very high intelligence. So why aren't we doing what's needed to get rid of the problem, right? Because I'm for that. I'm an American. Okay, you take one of ours, we take three of yours. I understand that nonsense. That's in my veins. That's the part of being an American you can't get rid of. So why not send in the team that's going to do that? We see that happening all day in the movies. Why aren't you putting that in real life? Like, that was done according to Obama, to Osama. So why are we, like, have we not learned that this is not, like, that's not the best way to go about that? So I understand people's complaints about the attacks on Israel, and it's unfortunate that they've had the attacks happening too, right? I'm not in support of that at all. And I'm in support of countries defending themselves when they can. So in that case, hell yeah, you better go find them people that did X, Y, and Z. If it's that deep, go find them and go hold them accountable. And you hold them accountable in the law, in the eyes of the law, for everybody else to see. Y'all seen in the movie A Handmaid's Tale and what happens when women step out of line? They were hung so that everybody can see that they were hung. If you don't listen, this is what happens. So I'm in support of that. If you want to show the next country, hey, this is what happens when you mess with our country, okay, cool. But to just go around killing just innocent people, that's not the best way to do that. You're gonna have people that support those people, period. Now, if they would have went in, Israel said, you know what, we're creating a team. And again, I know that these cells, these organizations are a little different in how they move, right? So you could have a woman that seems all innocent and she ain't innocent. Just like you could see a child that seems innocent, but that child's ready to take your life, right? So I get it. But again, that's what militants are trained for. That's what the military is trained for. That's what special ops is trained for. You send those people in to the people that harmed you. You don't just go around, just start, decimating everybody here and there. No, that's not how that works. That's not the right way to do it. If you want to send a message of non-hatred, hey, we're just fighting for what we deserve. We're just fighting and, protecting our own. That's not the way you do it. Because to the world, it doesn't look like that. When you bomb schools, right? Universities, right? Places, hospitals, and the fuck? Like, is Hamas in them hospitals? These are questions like, are they in the universities? Like, they could. I mean, maybe the way the organizations work, that is possible. But I would say you send a team in. I would think that's the better way to do it. You send a specialized group of forces in to go handle your business. And you collect. I think it's bigger than what we understand. I think that this is a land grab. That's the intent behind what is happening. I think that Israel feels justified because of possibly the attacks that have been happening over the years, over the generations, over the centuries, right? Maybe. But I don't know. I wasn't there. So that's my take on it, y'all. I feel like there's possibly both sides are being played right now. And it reminds me of Leave the World Behind. I don't know if I said this in the last show, but I did bring up Leave the World Behind. And where the man says at the very end that they don't know who's running the show, it almost feels like that. Like the people have, like, it almost feels like the 1% lost control for a second. This is a glitch that we're seeing with these college students. That's what it seems like. It seems like they thought everyone would be on board, and all of a sudden you got these knucklehead college students that are speaking out of turn. And let me be clear, Israel is in full support of Trump becoming president. So in that case, that's why you see Trump going so hard for Israel right now, which he's always kind of been going hard for them, but he's going really hard for them right now. He wants to be president. So I think the college students was a ripple in time. I don't think that was expected. I don't think that people planned for the freaking college students to start protesting all crazy on all these different campuses. What I do believe is your American college students were influenced by other people who are not from this country, who are going to school on those campuses. I think that some of the American students have gotten information from people that are not necessarily born and raised in America. And I think after digging, after conversations, I think that's what sparked the protest. I don't think these kids just started protesting for no reason. I don't think they're spoiled kids in the sense that they don't have a level of intelligence and they're not using it. I think that it just isn't being played out the way that people expected this to play out. And I think that the college students is a sign of a loss of control. Do you understand? I'm bringing it all together. Loss of control. And so to get these college students back in line, right? Let's send police people to their, to the campuses, police people, the police officers to the campuses. Let's send agitators to, because really what the agitators do, if you're students and you're peaceful, we pay for agitators, we send them there. That allows for the police to be able to do something in those situations. So now you're hearing situations where students are being arrested and students weren't being violent. It was actually somebody else, but they locked up the student by accident. I'm just saying. I think that this is, I don't think that this is a left thing. I think the left had no control. They did not see this coming. But the left can't the left can't, even with Israel being in control, the left cannot go against their base. Like they can, but they really can't. That is his bread and butter. Well, he ain't gonna have anybody behind him. If he goes against the college students, he's really about to lose. All he'll have is the migrants. So, y'all, I think it's bigger than what we understand. I think this is a loss of control, period. I don't think either side expected this. I think the right is easier because of the propaganda, because of the things that have already been done by the left. It's so easy to blame the left for all of this instead and win the election. Like if I'm trying to win the election, this is a perfect topic to blame on the left. It is a 100% perfect to blame. But we've also got to understand the people that are in bed with the left, Israel, also in bed with the right, Israel. It ain't changing. We sent $90-something billion to both Ukraine and Israel. Like that one package he just passed, that was for both. So again, maybe there's something I'm missing, y'all, but y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. With that being said, I'm out. Peace.